Hello, this is Jay Wellz, and this is Rags2Riches. I have one of my favorite homeboys, my boy Aiden Fenja.
Hey guys, how's it going?
All right, man. So, ain't no two ways about it. I gotta just kind of jump right into this. We all know what happened in Charlottesville. Real quick, how have you seen it, and what do you feel?
Me personally?
Mhm.
Well, first of all, I guess I think this is something that a lot of white people who aren't racist kind of they have this kind of even I shouldn't have let this happen because I know better, but I kind of let it go oh, that stuff just isn't happening anymore. You know, the
Right.
KKK not happening, Nazis not happening. But I should have known better.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, it's not just place blame on you. That's kind of our whole society because we had 8 years of the amazing great president Obama,
yes,
where we had a brief moment where we thought we could get up to a point of post-racial living. You know what I mean? And we thought we were there when in actuality it was just leaving them in a place of neutrality where they could not be open necessarily, but they were still moving the way the KKK moves.
Yeah.
I mean?
There was definitely still it was still a problem. I mean, I believe during Obama's term, there were lots of neo-Nazi things going on in Germany. I think that's always happening. But yeah, these guys they have been kind of I want to say they kind of closeted themselves for a little bit. You know, they weren't being so outspoken about their beliefs, but I do want to maintain that I feel as far as racism on a systematic level has been going, and on a subconscious social level has always been an ever-present thing that's been forcing people to struggle for such a long time.
Of course, no matter if there was the physical violence and the present danger, there has always been the class system that has systematically, like you said, systematically kept black people and other minorities from moving up in society, whether that be disenfranchised schools, urban areas, so on and so forth. Now, I wanted to ask you, because I know how I feel as a black man seeing this go, but I really want to see what your perspective is on this as a white person. What do you think white people should be doing in this situation now that it is shown its ugly head again?
Well, I think they should not be doing #this is not us, #this is not America.
Right.
Because it literally is America. It's happening in America. This is America's letting this happen too. You know, this is actually going on. So I think the time now is to just kind of be responsible. You know, like I kind of stated earlier, so many of the quote unquote good ones have been more focused about hey, don't hate me. I'm nice. I'm not racist. And they may not be racist, but that doesn't mean you're not privileged, you know?
True.
You know, I guess it's time to just kind of be a little bit more responsible for the actions of maybe other white people. I think it's time to be real allies. You know, don't just be a good one. You know, don't just be not racist and go about your way. You know, kind of be more outspoken.
I understand you completely, Matt. Taking a step back, because we have to call people out when things need to be called out. Black people, whenever there's something going on in the black community, when Bill Cosby got outed for his whole thing, we called him out. We had to call him out on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it wasn't because we wanted to. Bill Cosby was a great person. It's on the face of it.
Yeah,
you know
it was very...
Everything that he's done for the community has been very great. But when something that terrible and that nasty is being presented, we at least have to, even if we can't combat the man, we have to combat the action. You know what I mean? And if you can't combat the action of what happened, you can't justify. And I don't care if you're a neo-Nazi or just a regular average Joe going into work 9 to 5 and have middle of the road beliefs. You can't justify someone driving a car into a crowd of people.
Exactly. And that's the thing, you know, I feel like everyone, when I say everyone, I'm mostly just going to be talking about other white people. Not to separate myself from other white people either. I'm white.
Well, I'm gonna say this, and you're gonna be like, "What?" But you're like a white supremacist. Go ahead.
Whoa. Okay. Wait. Do you want to elaborate on that, or do you want me to keep going for the time being?
Okay, because that was probably very loaded, and you're probably very confused now. Like, oh, yo, what did he just say? Like, I just said so many positive things. Like, what did you say? No. I listened to KRS-One, and KRS-One said, it's not white supremacy. Because to be supreme is to be all knowing, and to be all knowing is to know that racism is something that cannot exist. Can't exist, but it's something that is bad.
Yeah.
To be a supremacist in any way is to understand that we must all love each other and all must unify in one way. It is because of the KKK and all that stuff that they adopted the term of white supremacist to be a supreme race. But that is not where the original term comes from. So to be a supremacist isn't necessarily a bad thing. To be a racist is to be a bad thing.
I never even thought of that spin on it. That's really cool. I'm glad there are smart people talking about these things.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you're glad I just cleared that up real quick. He's like, I'm not this. Don't associate me with this.
No, I was ready. I was ready. You know, I was actually kind of glad we had a moment like that. I want us to definitely capture like these kind of moments. You know, I think, well, I don't know. This is my first time on this podcast, but I feel like that's what podcasts are about, right?
Yeah, man. We're trying to show that it's not just like the media, because, well, I guess this is a perfect segue into this, because sometimes the media shows it in a different perspective, and it always shows most of the time the same perspectives. You know what I mean? They show the quote unquote frustrated black man. They show the middle of the road, conservative, and then they show the far right who believes everything that's going on is justified in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So actually pedaling back on the media, what do you think of their portrayal, I guess, of everything that's been going on?
I think it's interesting. I've been noticing now, like, I feel like now finally, especially with this, I just wanted to touch off on too, like what we were saying earlier, that like other communities are more responsible when a member of their community does something outwardly wrong. I feel like it's usually the white community that immediately jumps to, hey, don't blame me. Look, I'm a good one. Right. And not like apologize or just like, you don't even have to apologize.
It's an innocence thing. Yeah. They want to show that they are not a part of the whole.
Exactly. You know what I mean? They're more concerned with being associated with these quote unquote bad ones, than the damage actually done. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. I feel like just all it takes is just maybe just expressing that you're not okay with what happened. You know, something simple. You know, like this, what this person did was wrong.
Now, if you could just take those 5 words and send that to Donald Trump, that would have made all the difference, bro.
If he had just, I don't know. You see, it's one thing to be middle of the road. I get it. You're the president. You probably have like 80 people like kind of dictating what you should and should not say. Mm-hmm.
But on that same token, though, it shouldn't be too hard for someone to say that I don't like the KKK. That's all you got to say.
Exactly.
There's nothing political about it. There's no rough. Well, it is political because that is his fan base, if we were to call it a fan base. His followers, 99% of them, not 99% of them, but 99% of the KKK voted for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So he's not going to go directly at the people who brought him into office.
Yeah.
However, for the KKK itself is a small percentage of the people in America.
Yeah.
For the 95% of Americans, all you had to say was, I don't like the KKK. You know what I mean?
And that there shouldn't be any question about it. Why should someone have to be worried about saying the KKK is bad, Nazis are bad? It's like the most basic. Everyone should know that that's wrong. You know, I don't know why they're. And so now I'm glad we kind of went back because now we can circle back to the media, which is. I feel like now a lot of the media is at least more like, you know, internet articles and things like that are kind of waking up to the fact that like white terrorists are never called as such.
There we go.
And
say it again. Say it loud.
Can we just say that the KKK is a terrorist organization? They, since the very beginning,
Mm-hmm.
That is how they've operated. That's what they still do. You know, maybe now they're following the laws.
The quote unquote laws.
Yeah.
Which I believe, who did I hear this from? I believe it was from Ebro on Hot 97. He was like, everybody has the right to assemble, but peacefully assemble.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And also there's something called fighting words, which I'm glad he put me onto. I didn't know there was this thing. It's called fighting words. So if I say something to you that is directly insulting to you, and then a fight breaks out, or let's say I say something directly offended to you, it can get shut down.
Okay.
So screaming racial slurs or anything of that vein or nature can get it shut down. Or let's say someone like me gets angry and starts a fight. There's no charges that can be pressed on me because it's a crime of passion. You know what I mean? They said something harmful against me. Those are fighting words.
That's very interesting. I had never heard of anything like that. So that's very cool. And I guess that's something that anyone planning on protesting should know. That's really important.
Yep. And I'm trying to find out, I'm going to find this out later if New Jersey got fighting words, because I'm definitely going to keep that in my roster of knowledge.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, definitely keep that in mind. That could be very helpful in a sticky situation.
Yeah, but let's circle back to the media, because in terms of the television, I think that's where everything gets misconstrued and skewed. I want to first start with the origin of media. The first film that was ever created was what was it? First, do you know the name of the Nat Turner movie that recently came out?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, I can't think of the name of the movie. If it comes back to me, I'll say it. But it's a movie about it's a movie about the KKK, and it's basically portraying this black guy as the quote unquote rapist, and the KKK is coming to save the Americans. You know what I mean?
Jeez.
Well, not save the Americans, but save the white lady. And it basically reignited the KKK. So the KKK went from about like 2,000, 3,000 members to 4 or 5 million. And that was the first film ever created and ever shown and sold out. And created, of course, the 4 million members. So it's something that's instilled in the media. Not saying it's something that's coming out in every single station, but you have to understand what something is, you must understand its origins.
That's very true.
Now, the thing that frustrates me most about this is, of course, here's the best way for me to describe my frustration is it's called TV programming. Key word here is programming. They are literally trying to program your brain into thinking whatever it is they want you to think. Now, this is what I felt with the police brutality situation, right?
Yeah.
So they've shown so many people and they've killed so many innocent black men, women, children for pretty much no reason other than being black or looking like they had a gun when they never had a gun, or just looking suspicious or selling cigarettes, which is not a crime of death. To the point where if I were to see one today, if I go home, knock on wood, and I see one tonight, it's just going to feel like another day.
It's just another one of those things.
Because what it does is it normalizes it in my mind that this is a normal behavior. This is a normal thing to happen in society, which it shouldn't be. And the same thing going with this KKK situation. Every time I turn on the television, every time I turn on the CNN, NBC, whatever news station you listen to, they play it nonstop. You know what I'm saying? There's got to be a break. There's got to be something positive y'all could say. Y'all don't have to give it as much light. I understand people have to stay informed, but it cannot be this 24-hour news cycle that we're currently living on.
I think that's where we get into like the TV media, because a lot of articles that are being published, a lot of think pieces are very informative, you know, and I think that's really good. But yeah, like the TV media is very numbing. You know, that's what it's trying to do. All this round-the-clock coverage. God forbid there's a next one. But when there's the next one, because there probably will be, because
it's America, and that's what happens.
We're in someone's America right now. It's going to be a normal thing. You know, that's what they want it to be portrayed as. That's the purpose of the news, is less than angry outlook on this whole situation. That's why Trump is so middle of the road. You know, that's what systematic oppression is. That's what racism in America is. You know, that's how deeply it's running, where literally when news articles are more concerned about the KKK's legal right to assemble than it is for the fact that they are concerned about what they actually stand for and what this means.
Yes.
You know?
I understand what you're saying, man. Now, I'm glad you brought it back to Trump. We'll speak on him very briefly. I don't want to give him too much shine or light.
Yeah.
But it has to be spoken on. Did you hear what he recently said?
I did not.
He essentially was asked questions about the whole situation again. I believe it was either today or yesterday. And he was basically trying to defend the rights of the KKK, saying, hey, they went there, they had a peaceful protest, and they were standing for something good, which was keeping up the statues. And that's where all of this started originally. Ooh. The original point of the statue, the protest, was because they were getting rid of the statue of Robert E. Lee, leader of Confederacy. And they eventually started taking it down, and then they took down another leader of not the KKK, the Confederacy, one of the other, I guess, sergeants or lieutenants, whatever place he hold. And he said, so what's next? George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, so on and so forth. So from that standpoint, it's frustrating because it's not trying to take away anything of history, but stop trying to glorify something that is not worth being glorified. It's still a part of, you know what I'm saying? It's a part of what happened, but it's not something that we need to put in a shining light.
That's a really good point. A friend of mine was actually talking about this, that if you say you tore down every George Washington statue in existence, he's still the first president, you're still going to know who he was.
Of course.
And that's the thing. It's not about whether or not this person, so-and-so will be remembered by history, but just the fact that it should not be glorified. It's a dark part of history. And that's the thing. I feel like a lot of people who sympathize with the alt-right, who sympathize with the KKK, are, saying oh, well, this is hurtful to our beliefs. But the thing is, the KKK and Nazis, their beliefs are outwardly harmful to others. So many of these people say hey, you can believe whatever you want as long as you're not hurting anybody. But
that's the thing. It's not right there. You said it right there. As long as you're not hurting anybody, those are mentally, physically, and emotionally abusive not standards of ways of thinking, because it's mentally, because it puts somebody in a slave mentality.
Yes.
First off, there's a lot of people, and I'm not even going to say who, because there's a lot of not celebrities, but politicians who are black politicians that working under a slave mentality. Under a lot of people, there's an emotional mentality where you automatically think, if you ever notice, whenever somebody says something is ghetto or hood or bad in general, it's something black. Or whenever it's good and it's positive, it's white. You know what I mean? It's an interesting perspective is something from Cat Williams. You know what I mean? I don't know if you ever saw it, but there's one where he's in jail, right?
Okay.
And this girl comes to see him. He's got the son and he got a white baby, and she's saying that's not his baby. Yeah, well, she's saying that's his baby, but he's like, no, that's not. And he's saying, that is not my baby. That is a Caucasian baby from the islands of Caucasus. You know what I mean? It's actually kind of funny for the first minutes, but what hit me was he's like, that is a white child. He's got a credit score of 720 right now. You know what I mean? And something like that is something that we credit white people with having. You know what I mean? You have the better credit, you have the better job, you have so on and so forth. And whenever you're struggling or whenever you're bad, we relate it to something that is black or Spanish or of a minority descent. You know what I mean? The only positive that minorities get is kind of when they talk about Indians and Chinese about arithmetic, and that's kind of just one of those middle of the road stereotypes. It's it's positive, but it's still kind of the negative. You know what I mean?
Still a stereotype. And that's the thing. That's what white privilege is. That's how real it is. It's important to, air quotes here, but check your privilege. I mean, you literally become aware, if you're a white person, become aware that even if you've struggled, even if you've had your life was rough at points, the system in place was made for you. It's not made for people of color to excel as much as you can, you know? And once you become aware of that, you could kind of start to understand that, like, you have to lose that mentality that, like, oh, well, it doesn't happen to me. I don't see this. So people are just complaining, you know?
I think what's interesting about that is I actually want to bring it into drugs real quick about crack. Crack, and also gang members as well. People of white suburban America or suburbia in general, just taking it out of white people, but sometimes this happened with other races as well, but mainly with the white folks. If you don't see it in your neighborhood, you don't feel like it directly affects you. So that's why nobody did anything about crack until there were crackheads running around in their neighborhood. Nobody cared about gangs until gangs left LA. You know what I'm saying? No one gave a fuck about Bloods, excuse my French, until Bloods was in their neighborhood or Crips was in their neighborhood or whatever gang ends up showing up on your front door, and then it becomes an issue.
Yes.
It cannot be an issue once. Well, here's another analogy. Nukes can't be an issue the day before they're about to launch.
Yeah.
You have to worry about them before they're happening, when they're trying to set them up, because if you're worried the day before, you can't do anything about it then. At that point, it's just up to the person, whoever's going to push the button.
Yeah.
And you have no say in that. What you have say in is trying to get somebody on the ground to dismantle it in whatever way, shape, or form.
That's very true. And to touch up on nukes just real quick, you know, about like Korea.
Yes.
I feel like this is just something, this is going to be really brief, but like, as far as like the chance of like a nuclear situation.
And that's the craziest thing on top of this, because like I see the memes now. It's like, I don't know what to worry about more, Civil War II or World War III.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible that this is actually real too. But something like the prospect that nuclear, like, I feel like everyone's worried about like a nuke is going to be dropped on us, you know? But just want to say that that's probably not going to happen. I don't think anybody in America is going to get hurt. But the fact that like we could drop a bomb on them, and then that's innocent.
And we have somebody who is willing to do it is the worst problem. Because at least if we had somebody like Obama, like he would. Well, I don't want to keep saying Obama, but any sane person who is fit for the presidency and did the work knows strategically that dropping a nuke anywhere is not the move to do. Yeah. Because once it's gone again, all bets are off.
Yes. You know, that's the what's that called? That's called
mutually assured destruction.
Mutually assured destruction. There it is. Once someone does it, that's like opening Pandora's box, you know. Yep. But so that mentality that like, oh well, no, you know, nobody in America is going to get hurt, so it's no big deal if like, you know, of like millions of innocent Koreans get hurt, you know.
And even if millions of innocent Koreans don't influence you, look at it this way: politically, if we drop a bomb on, let's say, North Korea or anywhere around that region, they'll bomb a place. If they can't get to us, they'll get to a place like South Korea, or they'll get to a place that we're allies with to directly disconnect our money flow, our economics, our oil, our resources that we're getting, our trading abilities. Yeah. They're going to be able to affect so many other different things. Even if they don't hit us, they'll hit something so close to us that it'll hit just as hard.
Exactly. And, you know, that's the thing, you know, that's a lot of bodies. So I think the mentality is, if it's not in your backyard, then why should I care about it? You know, you have to be aware of you have to be aware of other people, what other people are going to have to go through, you know, and that's another message for white people, you know, just, you have to have an understanding, you know, and like, check your privilege, like, look up some articles, you know?
That's going to be the new hashtag. Hashtag check your privilege, man.
It's serious, though. Like, yeah, look up an article, you know, learn about what white privilege is, you know, and learn that you have it, regardless of how rough your life may have been, you know, like, and start a conversation, you know? That's
not all white privilege goes by the same standard.
Yeah.
Like, listen, like, I think everybody has white privilege if you look at it this way. If you can go up to a regular traffic stop, go in, go through the routine, not get checked, not get searched for no unknown reason, and you live at the end, you have white privilege.
Exactly.
Because
simple.
That's something that we do not have but that's not something that we do not have the luxury of having all the time.
Yeah.
So because that's almost something guaranteed, if you're doing nothing wrong, of course, it's guaranteed to you that you're going to live at the end of that stop.
Yeah.
You're not going to be assaulted. Then you have that privilege.
If you could get pulled over for speeding and let off with a warning, you know, and not have them want to search your car, you know, and that's what a lot of white people don't understand because they've never had that negative experience. So they just assume that it never happens. And then they don't understand. They don't even know what white privilege is, you know? So I feel like it's just about being understanding, you know, like it's not the hardest thing in the world.
I'm glad you brought it to understanding because I think how I want to spend the last couple minutes of this is talking about intersectionality.
Ah, yes, yes.
So some brief history. The Black Panthers, I believe it was the leader Marcus Garvey. It was either Marcus Garvey or Huey Newton. He actually went up to the KKK members or the leader of the KKK and he broke it down to him like this. He said, look, I'm unapologetically black and you're unapologetically white. But both of our communities are broke and both of our communities are disenfranchised. So instead of fighting each other on the racial level, let's fight the men on top on the class level and start getting money, the real money, into our communities and the support that we truly need to live as Americans. So they would get rid of a lower class and middle class, upper class, so we could all just be. And that is truly what is the most dangerous about those people was because that was the original tactic of racism in itself. When we were brought over here as slaves, they also brought white people, indentured servants, so on and so forth, had the indentured servants start to hate the black people. Now you have those two fighting, and as they're both fighting, the people at the top are all making the money. That's the reason why they killed all the Black Panther leaders, because they were able to, they were starting to do it slowly. I believe it started in Chicago, but they were getting all the people of all races, colors, creeds, orientation as well, because we don't even speak about the LGBTQ that was going on at that time.
Yes.
But they were a part of it as well, and everybody was in the fold, all pointing in one direction, and let's stop all of this mess.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that needs to be implemented now. I just need to figure out what we have to put in place to make that happen, because you know what I mean? It's a very difficult thing, because if a lot of people are hard on one topic, but they're not willing to fight on another.
Yeah,
I think. Know what I mean?
I think, you know, you could have intersectionality, you can adopt intersectionality, still stand for what you are most focused about, but you have to also just sympathize with the struggles of other communities. You know, if you are fighting against, let's say, you are mostly concerned with like BLM. Mm-hmm. You know, also, I feel like it's not too hard to sympathize with the struggles of the LGBTQA community. So I think intersectionality is something that everybody should look up, and that regardless of like, if you're fighting for any sort of social justice, it shouldn't be the hardest thing to kind of recognize the struggles of other communities as well. And, you know, just don't be colorblind either, you know. Celebrate our differences, recognize our differences, even the harsh realities. Because
at the end of the day, that's what truly made America great. I've heard it through the whole presidency, and if you want to know what's going to make America great again, it's about celebrating and embracing our differences and each other's cultures, because that was what made America truly great, was the fact that we had Spanish, Black, Irish, Italian. All these places are these big melting pots, which gave us what a lot of other places did not have. You know what I mean? We took in people when no one else would take them, or when they were running from something. Specifically, let's go back to the KKK thing, the Jews. You know what I mean? They were running from this.
Yeah.
They ran from that, and we gave them that safe haven where they were able to live and thrive and escape the terror that they were facing. Also, in terms of the culture, is going to move us forward in a more impactful way so we can all more better empathize with each other, which I believe will be the topic of one of our next ones, because we are having another discussion about empathy. I think this is a great place to end the podcast. I want to thank you again for just showing up to these, men. And
thank you for having me. I'm very excited to hopefully participate in some more.
No doubt, man. This is Jay Wellz.
This is Aiden from Deprived Records.
And Rags2Riches.